Hello, this is the second part of my presentation on time. Part one explained that God allocated time equal to everyone, and it's up to an individual how to use the time to obtain health, happiness, or wealth. Budgeting time using appointment scheduling and to-do list were explained in the first part. In this section, we'll investigate the concept of time itself. Let me stop the share here and actually go into the presentation. So it is the second part of my presentation. And so let's talk about what is time. This presentation is going to be about time itself. Time cannot be seen, felt, or held, and therefore it cannot be defined. We can only explain the effects of time, yet all of us believe that the time exists. When it comes to God, many scientists do not accept that God exists. Time is ingrained into every organic being through a biological clock. Just as God is ingrained in human beings, we call it the God gene. So let's take some assumptions that can be made about time. Future can be molded by actions in the present. I tell my students that whatever you do these 4 years will determine your future. If you play around and pursue pleasures, you will have a lifelong financial troubles. If you forgo the pleasures and buckle down these 4 years, you'll have lifelong financial security. So some facts about time. Time does not stand still. Only the past is real. The present is just momentary. As soon as the present is perceived, it becomes the past. Faster one's perception, the faster the present becomes past. So no one can act in the past or in the future. One can only move toward the future, never to the past. One will never reach the future, only the present. We can keep a record of the present as it becomes the past. Our memory is snapshots of our present perceptions. We can augment our memory with physically captured records such as photographs, audio recordings, or writings. We can assume that someone who is not restricted by time can see the past, present, and the future. God is not restricted by time. So why do we keep time? Man started keeping time because of rhythms of nature. Rhythms like night and day, appearance of moon each day, and the location of the sun in the sky. When I was going to school, I had no watch. I kept time based on the shadow of the roofline. If I'm on the road, I measured the position of the sun on the sky with my palm length, like so, thumb to pinky. God gave directions to start the day in the evening rather than what we do. We start the day at midnight. The Lord directed Israel that the first month shall be Abib or Nisan, which started in the spring. Rosh Hashanah is the Jewish New Year. we start our year in the winter. Our year 2022 should translate into 5,782. Perhaps that's the year Adam was sent away from the Garden of Eden and started aging. Just a thought. So calendars. It was easy to track the appearance of the moon, and it takes 29.5 days from new moon to the next new moon. Thus, the Jewish calendar has 29 days one month and 30 days the next month. In order to match the position of the moon with the stars, some adjustments will be made to the calendar periodically. The scripture days and the months are based on that calendar. One thought is that perhaps each year had a fixed days and hours until God stopped the universe, or at least sun and moon, for Joshua, and later moved the sun backwards for some 6 hours for Hezekiah. Today, we use solar calendar, initially devised by the Romans with many modifications. Now, keeping time is quite tedious. Man has devised many ways to keep time, from measuring shadow created by the sun to atomic clocks. Each rotation, Earth rotation, is the master clock. During King Hezekiah's reign, they used sundial. In the 1600s, it was discovered pendulums kept equal time for each swing. And in fact, I was fascinated by those clocks and brought one pendulum clock from India to this country in 1972. But these clocks had to be stationary to work. Wind-up or self-winding clocks and watches can be moved around, but were less accurate because of the tension of the spring. Our watches I use today are the wind-up kind. Modern timekeeping, all computers in use today send a time signal to synchronize all components. To do this, we use a quartz crystal. Clock rates can be adjusted in the computer motherboard to suit the components. The quartz oscillations are very rapid and it has to be adjusted for us to make quartz watch or clock. In order to synchronize the clocks of the world, Greenwich Mean Time was broadcast on radios. GMT is the mean solar time at the Royal Observatory in Greenwich, London. Today, we use atomic clocks to synchronize based on broadcast signals. We also use smartphones that get their times from a server. So when did time begin? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Thus, he created space-time. Time could not be measured prior to this. This event allowed time to elapse. We could say this is when the time began. Whoever is responsible for this event is outside of time, or he is eternal. Time is a measurement like length, weight, however, does not remain constant. It is relative. Time is measured based on distance and speed. Isaac Newton held that time was independent. Einstein explained that time passes differently in different situations. The faster something moves, the slower its time will run for someone observing from outside. In other words, time varies with speed. A person traveling in a spaceship will age slower than someone on Earth. Also, intense gravity slows time. Time moves extremely slow in black holes. We calculate time, hours and days, and years based on the movement of celestial objects. In our case, we use sun and moon in relation to stars. We calculate time based on our current position. This is very important. We calculate time based on our current position in the expanding universe. It is like measuring the length of an object traveling thousands of miles per second. At the same time, the background is getting larger. So time billions of years ago, in today's term, a billion years would have been just a fleeting moment. It may even be immeasurable at the very onset, as I will explain next. So time in an expanding universe. Suppose we place an ant on a balloon and blow it up as the ant is moving from one end to the other. And suppose that the ant covered about 1/4 of the length in 1 minute. Initially, when the balloon is being blown up. As time progresses and the balloon gets larger and larger, it would take billions of minutes to cover the same 1/4 of the length of the balloon. I hope you can imagine that. Our universe, space-time is expanding, or universe space balloon is expanding at a very high speed. Thus, as the circumference keep expanding, the keeping of accurate time become very, very difficult. So when God said first day, how long was it? As I am a literist when it comes to Bible, I accept it as 24 hours of time then. Now, I would like for you to visit the reference given in the next or a few slides later, and I will let you decide. While I was pondering on this balloon experiment, I started searching for a study that had been done. And I came across Dr. Gerald Schroeder, who has a PhD from MIT, and he is the author of the book Signs of God. Time approximations I'm about to give is from him. Now, before I get into that, I would like to separate the total time into two parts. This is my own idea, not scriptural. Prior to the 6th day of creation, I call it the pre-Adamic days or pre-Adam days. After the creation of Adam, or the 6th day, I call it the man's day. We are trying to use man's day to understand pre-Adamic or God's days, just as an ant on the expanding balloon we just discussed. So pre-Adamic time, Moses wrote Genesis. As we know, he wrote Genesis all the way through the first 5 books. And he also wrote Psalms 90. Psalms 90 verse 4 says, "For 1,000 years in your sight are but as yesterday." My interpretation of this is that God did not reveal pre-Adamic time in our ears. The days mentioned in Genesis is such that man can comprehend, thus put it in man's terms. Translating pre-Adamic one day into man's ears is really confusing, but let's try. And as I said, the scientists have calculated approximations. Today, scientists can calculate when creation took place based on the signals still traveling for the point of creation in this expanding universe. They, by the way, scientists call it the Big Bang. They are calculating signals traveling in a straight line in an expanding universe using today's time constraints of rotation of the Earth and the Sun. Neither of those existed at the time of creation. Now, I hope you notice that. The sun and moon did not exist at the time of creation. I hope you now have an appreciation of why scriptural reference at the time of creation may not match with today's time calculation. Now, what I would like to do is to show you the slide that I got from Dr. Schroeder. So I'm going to share that screen if I could. Give me a second. Okay, there we go. Share. Okay, you can see that in pre-Adamic year approximations here, each creation day is a beginning and end of an event. Day one is about 4 billion years and is it was about 15.75 billion years ago. Day two is about 2 billion years, and it began about 7.5 billion man years ago. You can see doubling size of the universe, half the time. Day three, 1 billion years, and it started about 3.5 billion years ago. And you can see the rest of the data in this slide. I hope you pay attention to this, and I'm not going to spend much time looking through this. So if you need more time, I'd be glad to leave it on for a little while. And so, all right, let me stop the share. Now, I'm going to stop here for now because my goal is to have each of these presentations less than 20 minutes. And looks like I probably need to have another session to talk about time. Originally, I said it would be only 2 sessions. Look like we may need a third one. And that time we can actually take the Genesis 1:1 and discuss each of those words that are described in there. Now, please make your comments below. So if you want me to do a third one, I don't want to bore you. If you want to have a third one posted, please comment so I can go. And I don't need too many comments. If we have 2 or 3 people write, yeah, I'd like to see it, I would be glad to do that. It takes a long time to do each one of these things. Okay, may God bless you abundantly. Bye now.